This is our Speak Up 101 session. It's part of our Speak Up information sessions that we are running to introduce school and district leaders to how to participate in Speak Up. So I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about Project Tomorrow so you understand the nonprofit that facilitates Speak Up every year. Then we'll talk about the Speak Up Research Project. I'm going to take you behind the scenes, share with you some additional information about Speak Up so that you have a good understanding about the project, why we started to do this project in the first place, and some of the nuts and bolts about Speak Up, let's call it that. Then I've identified for you, and I thought this might be helpful, just 5 key reasons why I think every K-12 school and district should participate in Speak Up this year. Then I'm going to share with you some examples of how you can use your Speak Up data to inform some upcoming decisions and plans. Then I'll leave you, before we get into our regular discussion time, then I'm going to leave you with something that you can do right away to get started, so an immediate action step. But I'll start off telling you a little bit about Project Tomorrow. We are an education nonprofit organization. We've been supporting K-12 education since 1996. We have a particular focus on understanding the implementation of new learning models within K-12 schools, particularly focused in on what the implementation of those new learning models, including the use of technology, means in terms of student outcomes and teacher effectiveness. So we facilitate that mission through 2 general areas. The first one is our Speak Up Research Project. That's obviously what we're here to talk about today. But I just want you to also know that in addition to that, we also create and implement for school districts, as well as for companies and nonprofits and foundations, all sorts of different organizations, evaluation and efficacy studies, and also professional learning experiences. So Speak Up is our in-house research initiative. We started this in 2003, and in a couple seconds, I'm going to give you the rationale for why we started Speak Up. But basically what it is that we create for K-12 schools and districts a series of online surveys that you can use to collect valid feedback from your students, their parents, your teachers, your administrators, your technology leaders, all the key members from a stakeholder standpoint that are impacting decisions in your schools and districts. We make Speak Up available to any K-12 school or district that would like to use our surveys to collect feedback from their stakeholders. And then we give back to every participating school or district all of their locally collected data, as well as state and national data for benchmarks. This is 100% a free service that Project Tomorrow provides to help school and district leaders have the very best information that they need to make better decisions. And this is definitely a year about making good decisions. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But once again, this is part of our nonprofit mission. There is nothing that we are going to talk about or anything even subsequently that we're going to talk about that involves anything in terms of you using your instructional funding to support your data collection. Everything that I'm sharing with you is 100% free. We take nationally aggregated data and we create a series of reports that are then used to inform decisions, not only at the local level, but also at the national and state level as well. And to that point, I want to direct you to a couple of key reports that if you've not already found them on our website, they might be super interesting for you. Every year, as I mentioned, we do create a series of reports. We also do infographics. We also create some different briefing presentations and look at the data through several different lenses. Again, all with this aim of helping school and district leaders make better decisions. So there's a couple things that are interesting here, a couple things that I chose that I think might be valuable for you. We did a series of executive briefs that were released in the summer and also in the fall, where we looked at 90 days that changed K-12 teaching and learning. So we took our Speak Up data collected from last year, which included the feedback from students, teachers, and parents, both before schools closed and during the school closure period. We took all of that data and we analyzed it across several different vectors, including thinking about student engagement, equity considerations, student agency, and communications. Each year, we also create a national report. This year's national report obviously had a strong emphasis on what we've all been living through over the past year. We took a slightly different spin on it than some other folks are because we actually saw some emerging evidence in our data about a potential education transformation that's taking place. And so it's a really interesting report for you to have at your access as well. All of these, again, are available on our website. We also did several different infographics. There's just two sets here that I thought might be interesting for you. We disaggregated our data and looked at equity in educational opportunities through two different infographics. And then we also looked at what teachers say they needed from professional learning. So just to give you a little bit of the origin story, or why did we create Speak Up in the first place for K-12 schools and districts, it was really based on these three sort of foundational beliefs that we had at the time. We thought it was really important for K-12 school and district leaders to possibly think differently about your stakeholders and their feedback to you in terms of looking at those as assets. But how do we do that effectively? And how do we translate what might be the opinions or views or perspectives of students, teachers, and their parents into something that's actionable as an asset? So we wanted to find an efficient and effective way to help K-12 schools and districts do that. We also had seen at way back in 2003, though I still continue to see it today, that in many ways, some decisions that are being made about education are based on outdated assumptions, even some mythology in terms of what students, parents, and educators might really want. And so we wanted to be able to provide some authentic feedback from your stakeholders to get beyond some of those outdated beliefs or assumptions that were the foundation for maybe some decisions. And then we also felt it was really important, particularly at the national level, at the federal level, that we were informing policymakers, the folks that were developing different sorts of programs, and also those that were appropriating funding for education, that they really understood what the needs and trends were in K-12 education. So this rationale or this reasoning for why we started Speak Up so many years ago actually is still true today, may even be more true today than it was back in 2003. There's several different things that make the Speak Up surveys different, and I thought I would just go ahead and call them out for you so that you have that information. There are lots of surveys that are out there, and it's very easier today than ever before for a school or district to create a survey. You could be using a Google form, you could be using different types of online tools such as SurveyMonkey, but there are some things that make the Speak Up participation and the Speak Up surveys different. For one thing, we have the expertise in the knowledge in the trends that are happening around new learning models and digital learning to understand how to craft questions that are objective, that will garner for you the very best feedback from your stakeholders, and also provide you with the types of information that can be actionable, that you can actually base decisions on. To do that, we ask three different types of questions. We ask questions about what people are doing. Lots of surveys ask questions about what people are doing, how much, how often, when are you doing it, what do you have, those type of questions. In addition to that, though, we believe very strongly that asking stakeholders about what they value or care about with these new learning experiences and also their aspirations are equally important. We look at the triangulation of the data between activities, attitudes, and aspirations as the very best way to understand what the real belief systems are of your stakeholders and what that means in terms of your decisions. We also have surveys that are available for many different audiences. So you have the opportunity to collect feedback from all your different stakeholders. So we have surveys that are available for kindergartners through all the way up through your seniors in high school. Those surveys are available in English and Spanish. They're also grade level appropriate. And for the elementary students, they're available in a group format. The group format eliminates the need for the students themselves to be at a certain reading level because the questions are read by their teacher. We also have survey as noted here for teachers, for parents. The parent survey is also available in English and Spanish, as well as your school principals, your district leaders, and your technology leaders. I mentioned before that we give back to you all of your data, not just a digested version of your data, but all of your data, line item by line item. And at the district level, you have that broken down by school as well as aggregated for your district. You also are given state and national level comparatives, and we have the opportunity to do other types of comparatives for you as well. Now, participation in Speak Up starts with registering your school or district to participate. So I gave you just a snapshot here, but again, Pilar is going to follow up with you and Pilar can actually walk you through all of this. I also want you to know that we provide you with a full suite of promotional materials for your stakeholders. So if you wanted to have text to go in a newsletter, to put on your website, if you want to do social media posts, we've already written all of that for you. You really just need to cut and paste it. Okay, so that was my background information for you about the Speak Up Research Project. What I'd like to do now is share with you some information about the ways that Speak Up can support your efforts and why we believe that every K-12 school or district should participate in Speak Up this year. So I'm going to start off talking about those 5 reasons. Then I'm going to give you 3 examples of how the Speak Up data can inform your upcoming decisions and plans. And then 1 thing that you can do right away to get started. So we call this the 5-3-1 plan. So 5 reasons why every K-12 school and district should participate in Speak Up this year. Here's reason number 1. Good decisions require good data. We all know that there are some challenging decisions that we need to make, whether that's about school this year or about planning for school next year. As I mentioned before, too often those decisions are based on opinions, hunches, mythology, maybe an anecdote here or there. Maybe someone has talked to one particular parent or one particular teacher has given their viewpoint. We really think it is most important for the types of decisions that leaders such as yourself need to make, that you have the very best data that is very valid for making those decisions. The comparatives help that with context as well. Number 2 is that we also believe, as we always have, is that listening to the views of stakeholders is critical. We think it's actually more critical today than ever before. We find that's particularly true relative to parents and to students, to really understand what the learning experience has been for them over the past year and what it means for them in the future in terms of your plans. Now, I provided here for you a quick snapshot of some of the new Speak Up topics for the questions on this year's survey. We took a look at all of the questions that we've been asking, and many of the questions have a good longitudinal base to them, so we continue to ask the same questions year after year. But this was an unusual year, and so we took a very deep dive into making sure that we're asking questions about the types of decisions that you need to make so that you have that data. So we're asking about learning recovery, how to measure what is needed from a learning recovery standpoint, what parents' concerns are about this. We have several new questions about student engagement. Well, how do students define engagement? How do educators define engagement? We ask teachers about what they need from a professional learning standpoint, and also about school to home communications, what parents' satisfaction has been in terms of communications, and what their preferences are, particularly around the types of tools, be those digital or more traditional, that parents need or want to have effective communications. We also talk about the quality of digital materials and how to assess and evaluate the quality of the types of content that's being used in your classrooms, whether those are face-to-face, a hybrid model, or still fully online. We, of course, continue to ask questions about the homework gap and about out-of-school access for students. We believe that our data is one of the very best and most comprehensive on the homework gap. We asked some new questions this year about cybersecurity. We've seen a lot of interesting trends. Many of you may have seen them as well, about upticks in terms of cyber attacks, and we wanted to get some new perspective on that. We also asked about social, emotional, and mental health issues and the future of education. One of the key question sets, and it spans all of the different surveys so that participation will give you the comparative view from students, from parents, from teachers, from principals, from all of your stakeholders, is about the pros and cons of virtual learning. It was really fascinating to me. I recently had the opportunity to take a sneak peek into some of the Speak Up data that's already been submitted. And it was fascinating to me that almost 70% of high school students said one of the pros of virtual learning is that there's less drama in their school day and they have the ability to focus more completely on the learning process. Really interesting data from the students there. Now, we also know that quite often folks want to understand more than just the counts of education technology. We ask those questions as well. What type of devices are you using? What type of access do you have at home? How often are teachers using different types of digital content within their learning practice? That data is all very important. As I mentioned, though, we think it's insufficient. We think it is better for our education leaders to have a bigger perspective, a wider perspective on the attitudes, feelings, valuations, expectations, and aspirations of their community. So we asked parents, what are you worried about? We asked teachers this year, what are you worried about regarding the future of education as well? And we also asked students about their engagement level. And we think this is really interesting, this snapshot here of data. So on the left-hand side, this is our data from the last school year. And again, we were able to disaggregate all of our data collected last year by the participation before schools closed. So basically a year ago this week. And then during the spring 2020 period when many schools were closed and fully engaged in remote learning. What was interesting to us is that amongst high school students, we did not see a change in their perspective of their level of engagement. 47% before schools closed, 47% of the high school students told us that they were engaged in learning most of the time in school. During school closures, during the remote learning period nationwide, 49% said the same. This year, and again, this is very preliminary data, this year, about 54% of students say they're engaged in learning most of the time. It's important for us to understand the perspectives of students, not only where it has changed because of the new learning models, but possibly where it has not changed, so that as we make our plans for student engagement, we have a complete picture of their own perspective. Now, my fourth item here is about creating that actionable knowledge. We believe very strongly that to just collect data, but not to use it is such a terrible waste. So that's why we provide you with all of your data, every single response, every number of respondents, as well as the perspectives, and then also give you that state and national comparative data. In addition to that, we have found over the years that many school and district leaders like to use our data to inform very specific things that they're working on. Maybe plans for teacher professional development, how they're engaging their community, how they're funding different initiatives. And so we're always happy to help you with templates for analyzing that data and also conducting analysis workshops with your team. And then my fifth reason why I think it's more important than ever to participate in Speak Up really has to do with funding. Now, we know that school funding is always a top concern for education leaders. It comes up number one on the issues that are waking up our school and district leaders every year. It has every year since 2003. We also know with the new funding that is coming as part of the American Rescue Plan from the federal government, we have to make sure that we are using that funding effectively. We have a strong, long-held belief that schools and districts shouldn't have to use instructional dollars to pay a company or your own internal staff to create surveys. This is a free service that we're providing to every K-12 school and district, and I hope that you will take us up on this wonderful opportunity. So in addition to what I'm sharing today, we also have available to you, and this will come as part of the presentation, two very specific short interviews that I did with some school district leaders who are talking about why their school districts participate and speak up. I think you'll hear their firsthand perspective as being very interesting. Okay, now what I'd like to do is quickly give you 3 examples of how your Speak Up data can inform some upcoming decisions and plans. And I just took 3 very specific goals that I've heard from talking to many school and district leaders. Your goals may be different, and we're happy to work with you individually to help you understand how the Speak Up data can help you. But let's say, for example, you needed to make some decisions about your learning recovery plans or how to use this new pandemic funding. Speak Up can help you in terms of very specific questions that are on the different surveys that we can pull out for you and help you use those specifically for your planning. So again, understanding the pros and cons of virtual learning, the type of obstacles that students have faced at home, student and parent perspectives on new learning models, and students' engagement in learning. The parent perspective on their child's learning experience over the past year, and teacher skills. These are all things that could help inform those decisions. Maybe you have a goal to understand how effective your current communications is with your students, parents, and families, or ways to improve that communication going forward. So we again have a set of questions that we can pull out for you that can help inform those, that particular goal or that initiative that you have. We ask students and parents about their preferences for communications by tools as well as disaggregated by messages. We talk to teachers through the surveys about their use of digital tools for communication. Parent satisfaction, again, disaggregated by message type. This year, very specifically around the health and safety messages that you've sent out, as well as information about school formats, openings, closing. You'll be able to get that firsthand perspective from your parents. We also ask parents about their concerns about their child's future, and in particular, the impact of COVID and school interruptions. And I also think it's really interesting this year, we're asking parents about their own personal experiences with online learning as part of a job or school, or maybe for their own personal curiosities. We think that's an interesting set of data. We've asked that question before on the Speak Up surveys because it can help you understand the perspective of your parents if they have not had any sort of online learning experience themselves. And then the third one is always a popular item. How do we make sure that we're developing a highly effective professional learning plans for our teachers and for staff in general? So we ask teachers as well as staff a series of questions about what they need for the future. Many districts tell us that they specifically use these questions on the Speak Up data to inform their priorities around professional development. And they also have the opportunity to talk to their teachers and staff and make them understand through this that they are in fact listening to their needs, understanding what they need, and responding appropriately. So we think that all of your decisions would be better if you had the opportunity to have access to feedback from your stakeholders. We believe that the Speak Up survey process makes it easy and efficient for you. And so there are several reasons why, again, to just reiterate, we think it's important for you to consider participating in Speak Up this year. Now, in terms of one thing that you can do to get started right away with Speak Up, this is going to be kind of fun. I actually have 3 doors for you. Door number 1, door number 2, and door number 3. So if you want to go in door number 1, you could take the appropriate Speak Up survey for your own role. If you are a district administrator, a technology leader, a principal, whatever your role is, we have a Speak Up survey for you. And I always think it's valuable for you to experience Speak Up as a respondent yourself so that you can have an opportunity to look at those questions. Door number 2 is actually about the questions. We provide access on our website to all of the survey questions for all of the different audiences. You can review all of those. It helps you identify the ones that you think are going to be most important for achieving your goals. And then door number 3 is to make a list of the data that you wish you had from your stakeholders to inform your decisions. What do you need? What do you want to know? My gut feel is that most of that you'll find through the Speak Up surveys. If you do not, contact us. We're happy to talk to you about customizing a survey for you as well. So we're here to help you every step of the way. You can visit us on our website. We have lots and lots of information on our website that can answer questions for you about Speak Up participation, or the team is here to help as well. So Pilar Comparan, I introduced before, she's here with us. She's your education program manager. I gave you her contact info, my contact info, please outreach to me. And then Jen Gibson is our Speak Up evangelist, and her information is here as well. So with that, I'm going to stop talking here for a moment and see if any of you have some particular questions, Kirby, that I can answer for you right away. If you have some thoughts, some ideas that you want to share with us, the floor is open.
All right, hello there.
Hi, Kirby.
So just a couple of questions, and they're, I guess, just kind of high-level questions being new to Speak Up in the survey process. I know our district has used it in the past,
Yes.
So I'm just not sure how I go about accessing the system and sort of getting myself logged in, given that we've already registered. And then the next question that I had was just around being able to access former survey data. I know we've used the surveys in the past, and so being fairly new to the district, I'm just kind of curious. I'd love to take a look at the data that that has been compiled from surveys in the past.
That's great, Kirby. I highly encourage you, because your school district has participated in the past, to take a look at that past data. I think it can be really valuable in terms of having that longitudinal perspective. So I'm going to assign Pilar up for a task here for you. We'll assign her a job right at the start here. Pilar can go back and look at the years in which your school district has participated in Speak Up. And then we can prepare those reports for you and send you that access so that you can take a look at all of those different years of the data. So that's the first thing. So Pilar, you're going to take that task on?
Yes, definitely. That's where my thoughts were going. And I'll connect with you. If you actually haven't registered this year, we did something different this year where we actually have everyone re-registered just because, there were so many, and like in your case, so many new folks in the position. So if you haven't registered for this year, I'll go ahead and do that on the back end. And just like Julie said, we'll go ahead and give you the password so that you could check all of the other reports. I'll go ahead and let you know what years we have data. So yes, we'll get you started.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Janice.
Okay, I have a few questions. First of all, do you know Bright Bites Clarity Technology Surveys?
We do, yes, of course.
Because we've used those in the past. I actually did not do one for the past 2 years. New superintendent, he had his own surveys he wanted to send out. So that's my concern, is that another survey. Our parents have been kind of surveyed out this year. Are you going to send your kids back? We actually just sent out a new one. Are you going to send your kids back when we open the school district? So every time I talk to the superintendent, I would like to do a technology survey. He's like, well, we're doing surveys for reopening. We're doing surveys. How do you combat, I know that the data is useful, and that, I could do that whole presentation to them. But and I know it's beyond technology, which I like, because I always think that, what the community feels and what the teachers are feeling is much more important even than how many, like you said, the questions do say how many of you have a computer at home and all of that. But, how does the use of technology impact your teaching and learning, which is much more important to me, so that I'm not just buying the same software, buying the same
That's right.
hardware, and it's not really impacting our students at all, and they're not giving the teachers what they need. So with all that said, again, I mean, I can, share a lot of what you've shared in this presentation and then but our parents are tired surveys. So I just don't know if you've had to combat that kind of approach to the higher ups that are higher than me when you join districts or work with districts.
Of course, and we absolutely love partnering with districts, and please know, and this is for you too, Kirby, if you need it, I am always happy to talk to superintendents. I talk to cabinets all the time, so feel you've got me right there at your shoulder. If you need me to have those conversations for you, I'm always happy to do that. I think what has happened in terms of survey fatigue is that lots of parents, as well as teachers, let's be honest, have been surveyed about what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They have not necessarily understood what the impact was of all of those surveys, or they've even seen the results of some of those surveys. One of the things I always encourage with districts, and again, it goes back to sort of the long-held premise that we have, which is feedback data is an asset. This is a valuable asset. And you're absolutely right, Janice. Understanding how parents feel about the experience is as important as what they have at home that's providing their child with support. Mm-hmm. So it's a different thing. In some cases, I've actually been talking to people about the fact that a lot of the surveying that we all have done in our school districts over the past year has really been assessment. We've really been trying to assess the environment rather than collect feedback. So I wish that there was more, I wish we had a bigger thesaurus to change some of these words to say what we're really doing is collecting attitudinal and aspirational feedback that can inform our plans. The key thing I always say to superintendents, and I do this, I think at least once or twice a week, is if you are going to engage in collecting feedback, or really even survey data, assessment data, whatever it's going to be, you have to have a good reason for it. So why and how are you going to use this data, and then share that with your community? So we want to hear from parents, for example. We want to hear what types of skills you think are most important for your children to develop to be ready for college and career, because we want to make sure that our programs, our curriculum, our instruction is addressing those needs. So it's important for you to complete this survey so that we have that information. Or it's important for us, for our teachers to understand, for us to understand how they are valuing the role of technology in helping their students and also helping their effectiveness, so that we then can make sure at the district level that we are putting plans in place to make this the most effective and meaningful experience for you. So I always it's sort of like putting the cart before the horse. So we are going to use this data to fill in the blank, and then communicating that out with the parents, the students, the teachers. Then that makes a stronger case for all of this. So I think it's the differentiation between assessing, counting things, and understanding feedback, and then communicating what the goals are. And you said that you were familiar with the Bright Bites Clarity yes. Technology surveys. Well, there's several things that, I mean, I do like the Bright Bites reports, but as you were doing your presentation, it's not flexible. So it's like you give that survey, the same survey every year. And so, like you said, so if my end question does not need all of that data, that gets overwhelming, actually. That's right. When I have all that data, and it's like, and then I have to decide what I'm going to focus on instead of doing it kind of like, backward design. What is my end, and then how am I going to get there? So
So I appreciate that as far as the Bright Bites, but do you provide, like, if we did choose just a, we're looking for this specific, where we're looking for it, the survey to inform this specific question, do you provide kind of a recommendations report, or is it just the raw data?
So several different things. So one, please know that we work directly with school districts to customize the surveys as well. So I want you to go and look at the Speak Up questions. And you go through them and you go, gosh, I love this and this, Julie, but you asked this question about digital citizenship, and I would rather ask this question about digital citizenship. We can customize the surveys to do that for you. Okay, so know that right up front. The second thing is that when we're going to give back to you a report that's going to have every single question, and it does get overwhelming, absolutely gets overwhelming. That's why we also create for you templates that are based on the infographics that we're doing nationally. So you may take a look at, for example, our infographic that we did on what teachers say they need from a professional learning standpoint. And you may go, I love this infographic, it's national data. Can I use that with my own data? We can do that for you. Okay. Any of those infographics we can do as well. The third thing is, and I do this all the time, I would be happy to do it with either one of your districts, is that we do workshops with the district team where we look at specifically what your goals are, maybe even what your mission statement is, what your strategic plan is, and then we match up the specific data that you need so that it informs those decisions. So we sort of take away from you, you still get all the data, but we take away from you the need to go through all of that and pick it out. We can actually do that for you. And I do that with school districts all the time.
And I feel like I'm kind of monopolizing because Kirby asked this question and now I've been like asking.
No worries, you've asked really good questions and definitely some that were kind of rattling around in my head still.
And
another survey that our district has done every year is our climate survey that we have to do because of whatever our state label is in New York, our DITSI survey.
Yeah.
And so again, I don't want to duplicate. I don't want to overwhelm people with the same type of questions. So like you said, I can look at the questions and see if they're, really similar to the DITSI, because I'm sure that'll be something my superintendent will say too. Well, we've done the DITSI surveys, we've gotten those results, and why do we need to do another survey type thing? So it's great that I can customize it and not re-ask those same climate type questions in your survey.
The other point to that would just remind me of something. So this is going to be for you, Kirby. Know that many districts in California use the Speak Up data to inform their LCAP reports. Yeah. So it's similar, Janice. In California, there is some reporting that is required for the state. And so they don't mandate a certain type of survey. They just mandate the information from the stakeholders. And so in California, many districts use their Speak Up data to inform that. So there may actually be, if you take a look at the questions that we have, there may be some things that are not on your, did you call it DITSI? Is that what you called it?
Yeah, that's what we call it here, DITSI, DST, DSC.
That's cute. That's cute.
Yeah.
But there may be some ways that we're asking the question that's a little bit different that could also inform what you're doing. So beyond the compliance component, it may add some supplemental information to that as well. Okay. Yeah. Other questions? Anything else?
No, and I'm watching time because, with this whole new virtual world, you roll from one meeting to another. And I do have a 4 o'clock virtual at administrative council.
Well, you better get going then. But please know we are here to help you.
Great.
and would love to have the opportunity to work with both of your districts. Pilar will follow up with you, Kirby, and Pilar will
Great.
also follow up with you, Janice. If you have any additional questions, I am always happy to talk to superintendents, talk to cabinets, whatever it be to make it helpful for you. We're here to help.
Okay.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you
Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it. Thank